Hello, welcome to Epi's Reading Nook, a special YouTube series I wanted to start for about a year now, where any indie authors can put in submissions of excerpts of their favorite works, and I read a bit of it and put their links down below so you guys can go help support other indie authors. I am a huge believer in this because I know how saturated the market is and I know how long it took me to get published. So, for the first installment of this series, I will be reading an excerpt from my own book, Dark Secrets. It is a huge passion project of mine that I'm so glad that I was able to publish. I am working on editing the sequel now, but for now, sit back, get comfy as I read chapter 26 of Dark Secrets. The ground under their boots was hard. Ariette was surprised by what she saw. Beyond the stone walls that surrounded the city, everything was burnt. The grass was charred and the trees all dead. She sniffed a couple times and held her hand out. Ash fell onto her hand. "How is that possible?" she asked, showing Soren. He frowned, too. "Maybe the wind is kicking up some old ash," he said. "There's a building there we can look through." He took her into the nearest one. The lower half was one big room, a staircase in the back leading to the second floor. Most of the walls were still standing. They climbed the stairs carefully, pausing every time a stair creaked. The upper floor was also open, but she saw sheets crumpled on the floor. Stepping carefully, she inspected them. The ceiling above each sheet had small holes in them. She picked up a sheet and gasped in pain. "What's wrong?" Soren asked. She showed him her red hand. "There are metal hooks on the sheets," she explained as he pressed his hand on hers, healing the burn. "I'm guessing so the sheets can create a wall. I touched one and it burned me. It's like it was still hot from fire." "That's impossible," he said, and kicked the sheet around with his foot until the hooks were visible. "I don't know. There's nothing else up here," he said. "Looks like it was just a home." "I didn't see any kind of structure on the way in, just a bunch of buildings wherever they wanted to put them." He nodded, and they explored a few of the other buildings. Not many had other floors, just the one. They saw one that looked like it had once been a shop. Another home was only a single floor, and Ariette felt a lump in her throat. Soren was inspecting some rubble in a corner, and she approached a piece of furniture in the back of the home. She recognized it immediately. A small crib was pushed into the back corner. Charred remains of wood gave her the impression that whoever lived there had tried to hide the crib. Her hands shaking, she reached out and moved the blanket. She let out a small sob, and Soren rushed to her. "What happened? What is—" "Oh," he whispered. He pulled her to him, making her face his chest. "I'm sorry you had to see that." "It's just a little baby," she wailed. "I know. What in the world happened here?" "Let's go look for the others," he said in a somber voice, walking away from the crib. "It's been about an hour, and—" He didn't get to finish a sentence. Somewhere in the distance, they heard a piercing scream. "Luca!" he said, and ran out into the street, listening. She did the same, gripping her necklace. They heard it again, somewhere to the north. "Prince, please!" Luca's voice carried to them. He was sobbing in pain. "Please help me." "Where are you?" Soren yelled back, running blindly. "Please, oh gods, I don't want to die." Ariette's tears doubled as she chased after Soren, gripping his hand tightly. Soren's irises were red, his free hand on the hilt of his sword. "Tell me where you are. I'll come save you." "The chapel." Those were his last words. With a final blood-curdling scream, his pleas for mercy faded into the distance. Soren screeched to a halt, panting. Ariette couldn't stop crying. She only had a few minutes to register that she didn't recognize where they were. Before she could say something to Soren about it, they heard someone shuffling around the corner ahead of them. "Luca!" Soren panted. "Wait!" she began, but it was too late. He pulled her around the corner, and she screamed in horror. In front of them, a figure stood in the gloom cast by the wall of the building. It was at least 8 feet tall, its body gray and emaciated. It was impossible to tell the gender, but it had elongated hands and feet. The hands only had 4 fingers that were stretching out in front of it. The head is what horrified her the most. It had a large mouth with rows upon rows of sharp teeth. Blood and drool stretched between very thin lips. Its nose was simply 2 slits. Where the eyes should have been, there was a stretch of clammy skin. 2 holes on either side of the head is all it had for ears. The creature's movements were slow and calculated. Soren drew his sword, and its head snapped in their direction again. Ariette stifled another scream. It moved quicker, and Soren broke through his shock, swinging his sword. The creature let out a high-pitched shriek as its hand fell to the ground with a squishy thud. Black blood squirted out of the stub, and the creature retreated into the shadows. Ariette edged away from the disembodied hand. "What the hell was that?" Soren's voice was hoarse, and she gulped. "I don't know," she said, trembling. "We need to find the others and get out of here." "Luca," Soren said, as if just remembering. "We have to find Luca. Soren." "He was this way," he said, dragging her. "We just have to catch up with him." "Soren, if we can find him, we can still save him." "Soren!" she said loudly, and he finally stopped. Her eyes were sad. "Soren, I don't think we'll be there in time. I'm sorry." His eyes flickered with panic, and he gulped a few times. "We need to find the others." He managed to nod, and they continued walking. Ariette drawing her sword, too. Every corner they reached, Soren checked it before giving the all-clear. "Something's wrong," she whispered. "We should have been to the gate by now. None of this looks familiar, and—" She stopped. There was another sound coming from ahead, and she quaked. She couldn't handle another one of those monsters. Soren regripped his sword, then dashed around the corner, bringing his sword down. Ariette cringed, but instead of the agonized scream of a demon spawn, she heard the clang of steel on steel. "Soren!" Captain Alexei panted. "Thank the gods it's just you." Ariette cried in relief. It was the rest of the group. At first she thought the wolves by them were from the village. Then she recognized the pattern of their fur and their eyes. Both of them were snarling, their hair on end as they constantly looked around them. "You heard it too," Alexei said. "Luca." "Of course I did," Soren said. He sheathed the sword. "We need to get out of here. We'll go back and tell Tyrannus to find a way to conjure magic flame and burn it down. I don't care how. We just have to—" "Your Highness, I'm afraid that's not going to be possible," Alexei said. "What do you mean?" he snapped. "We tried to leave," Albu said. "We can't find the gate. There's some kind of spell going on here." "I don't understand," Soren said. "The city has turned into a kind of labyrinth," Raphael said. "We can't find the exit. We're trapped in here." All right. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of my book, The Dark Secrets. It is the first of 3 that I plan on writing. I'm very, very excited about them. So I'm going to go ahead and put the links of where you can find it down below in the description box. If you guys would like to have your story read out loud here on YouTube, I do hope to do one a month. So just go ahead, and I have my email down below where you can put in your submissions. But until then, thank you so much for sticking around, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.